Sick and tired of the good old sick care system. You guys, Dr. Fitz here live with a dear friend and colleague who has an incredible story about how she finally got sick and tired of the sick care system that got her to a place that she had four, what she thought were chronic, irreversible diseases. And now here she is, how many years later?
This is 23 years later.
And healthier than most people in America. So I am privileged to introduce you guys to my friend and colleague, DeeDee Mehren. She is a local celebrity here in the St. Charles, Tri-Cities area. She is very well known for her holistic coaching, her food plans, her 30-day challenges, which Laura Marmed has been a part of for the last 2 years, starting January 1. And she has a whole host of other great things on her resume. But today, her story is the thing that you do not want to miss. This woman has literally overcome all of the odds, and her story basically empowers a large majority of you listeners. So, DeeDee, first of all, thank you for being here with me today.
So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So can you tell the audience just a little bit about who you are, and then we're going to just go deep into all of the things.
So I am a holistic nutritionist and certified culinary nutrition expert. Yes, I do concentrate in the Tri-City area. That's kind of where I'm known. But I do a lot of virtual and online programs and corporate work as well. So it's definitely accessible to everybody.
For sure, for sure. So I got introduced to you, I guess, a couple of years ago when I was looking for people that could help my patients, because most of the people know here online that I do functional medicine, and I use my Western medicine training because I am an MD and I have that allopathic training. But I also recognize the fact that there was a lot of the natural, holistic side of stuff that we were not taught. And so we combined that functional medicine training with my Western medicine training to basically give all of the people that come into Laura Marmed a truly holistic approach to health, wellness, beauty, and just feeling your optimized healthiest. And everyone said, you got to meet this girl, DeeDee, because you and her are basically on the same page. So here we are, 23 years after you got diagnosed with what? Please tell the audience.
Well, okay, it's a story. Let me tell you the story. And it wasn't, I haven't been diagnosed. I've been diagnosed for, it took me 9 years to get to the actual diagnosis. So what happened is I thought I was the picture of health. And I was living a very different life. I was working as a strategist in an online advertising company, actually one of the biggest advertising companies in Chicago, Leo Burnett. I led strategy engagements for clients. It was my dream job. I worked at a .com with all the cool people.
Right.
I was actually one of the oldest at age 30 there.
Come on.
But seriously. So I was only pregnant when there. This is where the story begins. I had my first child, age 30. And I rolled over one day and I was only 32 weeks and I had her. So first of all, complete surprise, right?
Right.
She was born a little over 8 weeks early, and don't worry, she is doing great. She is living her dream life in Washington, D.C. as a strategic analyst for the State Department. So I had to do a little mom brag. But
you were allowed to mom brag. That's braggable.
Yeah, for me, that's, I'm just so happy that she got her dream job in 7th grade. That's what she said she wanted to do.
What?
So it's, but the story is that, that first month was so scary because she was in the NICU. It was 9/11 actually. So it was stress upon stress. And I was going to the NICU every day. And so shortly after that, to make the story a little bit shorter, when she did come out, it was still very scary, but I started having all these weird symptoms. And my main symptoms were peripheral neuropathy, which I know now. Back then, I literally thought it was a skin disease, and I started seeing a dermatologist. I had no idea why my hands and my feet were burning so incessantly that I couldn't wear shoes in the office, which is so embarrassing, right?
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, it's Chicago in the winter. I had to take my shoes off in the office. It was terrible.
That sounds terrible.
And so that led me on this 9-year journey, 9 years of going from doctor to doctor. I even had a bad surgery on my ankle because they told me it was tarsal tunnel and my nerves weren't getting through. So that laid me up when my second pregnancy, I was in a boot and a cast and all this stuff. Useless, right? Didn't do anything.
Right.
And my story just kept progressing. So I had all these neuropathies and I had all of these other crazy things that were happening in terms of real muscle fatigue. So
okay.
Going into this, I thought I was healthy. I was, I was a child of the 80s and 90s.
Yep.
So you're about 10 years younger, but I lived the whole no fat. I mean, I wouldn't touch fat with a 10-foot pole, right?
Totally, totally.
Cookies, fat-free cheeses. Believe it or not, my first job was with Kraft Foods.
Oh, goodness.
I mean, it's a funny story because the tour of the Oscar Mayer plant made me go vegetarian. So
oh my gosh.
I also tended towards vegetarianism. I was a long distance runner. So I was also a avid exerciser and athlete my whole life. So I probably over exercised a bit, but thought that was the healthy thing. And it also managed my anxiety, which I'm a type A anxious person naturally. I've learned to take that back a bit.
Right, right.
But so I was exercising excessively from my life as like an athlete, and then I started doing endurance sports.
Okay.
I thought stress. I always knew I was a high perfectionist kind of person in my job and in my life. I had to have everything kind of right. But I didn't really recognize that as stress. I just recognized that as a type A, right?
Yeah.
And then as far as sleep goes, abysmal. Like I didn't sleep for years at some time. I felt like I was sleeping 4 or 5 hours. I would get up, I would do the 4 a.m., 5 a.m. classes before, especially after I had a baby. I didn't have time. So I just figured I could shorten that sleep cycle. So that's why, I arrange my program around these 4 pillars: nutrition, movement, stress, and sleep. It's everything. It's not one thing. So all of these healthy things I thought I was doing were making me sicker and sicker and sicker. And every time I went to the doctor, they would refer me to another doctor. And kind of, I think they thought I was just a stressed out young mother.
Oh, they thought, I'm sure they thought you were crazy. Just so you know, from like the backside of Western medicine is when I was in that world, it would be very common when we would have a patient like you'd be like, she's one of those. I mean, I'm just being real. Like,
oh, I know. And I was starting to think that too, like at a certain point, I was starting to think, what is wrong with me? And, is this, but it was visible too. Like my hands would swell and they'd turn red, and the fatigue, like I couldn't lift the really crazy one is I couldn't lift my arms. I was training for a marathon. I couldn't lift my arms above my head.
Wow.
And so the story continued, and I'm going to make it a lot shorter, but 9 years down the road, I finally was given the blood test for autoimmune disease.
Okay.
And I showed positive for rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Sjogren's syndrome, and a severe case of Raynaud's phenomenon. So 4 autoimmune diseases.
Yep.
It was a simple blood test after 9 years.
And I test all of those initially on all my functional medicine patients.
Yep. How frustrating is that? I mean, I think medicine has come, it's still got a long way to go, but
definitely.
Yeah, they're better, right? They're better. So again, this was
getting better.
This was all started 23 years ago. So, but at that diagnosis, so I was diagnosed and told it's nothing you're doing.
Right.
It's just who you are. Here's a bunch of medications.
Of course.
Go off, live your life. They're incurable, but this should make you feel better. So I was put on immunosuppressant. That's typical, right?
Of course.
I was put on calcium channel blockers for my severe Raynaud's. I was put on a nerve agent for my nerve pain called Lyrica. So that was kind of like my handful of medications. Of
course. And
I just did what I was told.
Of course, because you trusted that they knew what's best for you.
Yeah. And I took those medications. Within 1 week, I started almost fainting from the calcium channel blockers.
Of course.
So they took me off
already
those,
probably low,
but I continued on the Lyrica and the everything else. And so then in 2010, so I was diagnosed in 2009. In 2010, I was actually training for the Chicago Marathon.
Okay.
And I had gotten a series of pneumonias. In fact, 5 pneumonias in 2 years.
That's
5.
not normal. That's not normal.
Not normal with pleurisy. So this last one was pleurisy. And it was, so if you've never had pleurisy, you feel like you're having a heart attack, right?
Yep.
I told my husband I was dying. I'm dying.
Absolutely.
And I had, 3 young kids at the time. And I was like, I'm dying. But so I came out of that, and it was a month to go before the Chicago Marathon. And once you've trained for a marathon, you don't want to give all that up, right?
No.
I did make an appointment with my doctor.
Okay.
And I went in and I said, what the hell is happening? I can't lift my arms. There's days where I feel great, days where I feel terrible, and it was kind of cycling, and I'm still on all these medications. And he said, again, nothing you're doing, just keep going, and maybe we'll add another medication.
Of course.
And I said,
Oh,
Okay. And I just walked out of that office so defeated.
yeah,
And I came home and I started Googling,
of
to be
course.
honest.
Yeah.
This is before I was a healthcare practitioner at all.
Right. Right.
And I Googled like can't lift arms above head.
Okay.
So you know what popped up? Venus
What?
Williams. Venus Williams has Sjogren's syndrome. And in that year, and I'm a tennis player, so she's like a hero of mine, right?
Oh,
I still
totally.
play
Totally.
tennis every week.
Yeah.
She popped up as having Sjogren's syndrome. She was seeing a nutritionist. The nutritionist had told her to go gluten-free
Okay.
and to follow a vegan diet. Now, I had done the vegan thing and that, I knew so I was like, I'm going to start with gluten-free. How about that?
Okay.
So that day, then and there, I stopped gluten, and I was a carb addict. I mean, again,
Oh, I can
fat-free
imagine.
era.
Of
I lived
course.
and I was an endurance athlete, lived on
Yeah.
pastas, bagels, all the things.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. And so but I just said, you know what? I can't feel like this anymore. And I can't. And so I went gluten-free. 2 weeks later, I felt about 50 to 75% better than I ever had.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, there's something to this. I ended up running the Chicago Marathon.
Okay.
I ended up qualifying for Boston. So it tells you the kind of person I am.
I
If
mean,
I'm going to do it,
I already knew this about you. I'm not
I'm going to
surprised,
do
actually.
it, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
if I say
Even
I'm
if
going
I
to do
feel
something,
like
I'm gonna do
crap,
it. But
even though you feel like crap, you did it.
if it probably wasn't smart, I'm much smarter.
Certainly not. Okay,
but
good.
I didn't know then.
Right,
So,
right.
But then that was the first little glimpse I had of taking agency in my health. Like, wait a minute, I could maybe change things I'm doing and have them impact my health.
Crazy.
So I stuck with the gluten-free thing. And again, that was super hard because loved my carbs. And I tried twice more to just try a little bit.
Right.
And each time this exact same thing would happen 2 days later. So delayed reaction.
Yep.
2 days later, exactly, I would wake up with inflammation. I'd feel like I'm getting sick again.
Yep.
My arms would like be so heavy, I couldn't lift them up.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there was something to that. So I've been gluten-free for 14 years.
Awesome.
But, so that was just my little glimpse of that. And then things started to like kind of come into my consciousness of taking control.
Okay.
In 2012, so this is, a couple years later, my husband was actually transferred to Canada. And so we were expats in Canada.
Okay.
I quit my job. And, I couldn't really work there. So I was like, well, I still had 3 little kids. One was entering kindergarten, one was entering like 2nd grade, and one was entering like middle school. So I decided that I would stay home for a little bit.
Okay.
Well, I got to Canada and I heard about this fantastic program that they had up there. Like in Canada, the healthcare system is very different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And holistic nutrition, they had 2 amazing schools.
Okay.
And I started doing my research. And again, I'd always thought I was very healthy and been very invested in health and wellness.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm going to go back to school.
Cool.
So when I got there, I gave it like 6 months, and then I enrolled at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition in Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
And that began the journey of becoming a nutritionist. And when I was doing this, I was doing it for myself. I had no literally intention of really doing anything outside of trying to cure myself of these incurable diseases, I was told.
Correct.
So at the same time as that happened, actually a little bit before, in 2011, my mom was diagnosed with something called alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, which is like cerebral cystic fibrosis. I mean, so it's something
it looks the same on X-ray as if she were to have emphysema. Just for the people that want to know that, like they end up having the same outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not smoking. Not
smoking. It's hereditary. You don't produce an alpha protein that cleans your lungs. So you're aware of it. It's kind of a little bit more. It's pretty rare.
Girl, I used to be an anesthesiologist. I had to know all of that kind of pathophysiology with my patients, for sure. Okay,
so you understand. And my mom and I were very close. And she actually lived in Geneva too. And it was devastating. She would have loved your dance classes. Oh my God, she was a Zumba queen. But she, overnight, just I had to stop doing her Zumba classes. Went from this highly, extroverted, energetic, beautiful realtor that could not do much of anything and was kicked out of a yoga class for coughing. And so long story short, I went back to school I was like, I'm going to do whatever I can for my own health and my mother's.
Yes.
And so I went to school there, and we lived there from 2012 to 2015. And while I was there, I almost finished my degree. I had 2 classes left. I came back. We got transferred back to the States. Those years in nutrition school were some of my happiest years. I met dear friends.
Right.
I had so much fun learning. I mean, like we had classes that started with like meditation and massage train. It was like,
I love it.
it was amazing. But
That
so
sounds
that began my
amazing.
journey. And I mean, it's a long story and it continues obviously today. I mean, health, I always tell people it's not like a straight line up. I mean, I'm
Definitely
not,
not.
to be honest, I still, I've been medication free completely since 2015.
Man,
But I got rid
that's
of
awesome.
lupus on my blood markers. I got rid of rheumatoid arthritis. My Raynaud's is much less. And my Sjogren's syndrome still shows up on my blood test.
Right.
And I still occasionally have peripheral neuropathy.
Right.
Whenever I do, it's not nearly as severe as it was. Like I used to not be able to sleep and not be able to get comfortable. Now I usually see it as energy that's trapped and I just try and, you know, kind of actually mind myself out of it.
Right.
And I do acupuncture right now. I've been doing
Right.
acupuncture for a while. I try and do little resets, detoxification protocols, but I manage everything holistically. I don't feel I need a medication. If I did, I would. I'm not totally anti-Western med.
For sure, for sure. One thing that I want to do clarify for the listener is, so when I'm talking to my autoimmune patients, I always like to use the reverse and remission. So you can never actually cure an autoimmune disease. So the way I explain it is that you have these genes that are like light switches that are autoimmune genes that with the perfect circumstances can be turned on like a light switch. And now typically, oftentimes it is something like pregnancy. So it can be a traumatic event. It can be a pregnancy. It can be a round of antibiotics. It can be a whole host of things. And typically it's one trigger after the perfect concoction, the perfect recipe. You have one inciting incident and all of a sudden that gene is turned on. So for you, that was probably your pregnancy, right?
Oh, 100%. It was stress. And then come to find out, looking back, I have had my DNA tested and I never was tested for celiac because I went off gluten myself.
Right.
But I have a red zone genetic predisposition for celiac. So the autoimmune disease, you know, the 3, right?
Oh yeah.
It's hereditary, which 30%, which my family, my sister has some markers.
Yep.
My mom for sure. It is the gut dysfunction, right?
Yep.
And then you've got that trigger, which, as you said, was my pregnancy and my stress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
you
your genes were turned on. And I always like to explain to my autoimmune patients that in order to turn those genes back off, like the light switch is going back off again, it's all 90%. It's what you do. It's lifestyle. It's food. A lot of it is food, right?
Absolutely.
Stress management, sleep management, all of your 4 pillars. That is what slowly turns that gene off, and you can reverse it and keep it in remission. You can't cure it. So that means that if you go back to doing all of the things that turn the gene on, guess what? Those symptoms are going to come back, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
you have been living with all of the lifestyle changes that have reversed it, and you've kept them all in remission. So I applaud you because that is huge. And a lot of people don't understand that that is even an option.
Yeah. Yeah. It was when I finally saw that little glimmer of hope. And I started to take back everything. So it wasn't, you know, nutrition. I've done the autoimmune paleo diet many times. I've tried pretty much every diet to reverse. And what I've come to the conclusion for me, I'm mostly paleo, but I don't have to be so strict about everything these days.
Right.
I'm mostly paleo. I definitely try and limit grains to maybe once or twice a week at most. And usually I soak and sprout them.
Right.
But I'm also I was dairy free and grain free for years. I do include a little bit of grass fed Greek yogurt now. And none of that seems to affect me at all anymore. But it was a trial and error. And I think it's still all individual. Like I'm much, and I have to, you know, like I would never eat red meat as in my 20s and 30s. Now I include like, organ meats in my, you know, I mean, I'm all the way there, right?
100%.
I am much healthier, but it wasn't just the food, as you said, like I had to take ownership of all of my things. So I started meditating in 2014. I meditate almost every day. To manage my stress and anxiety. I do many things. I have I value my morning routine, I value my evening routine. As far as movement goes, I've dialed it way back. So I realized that this, you know, and I don't regret my days of marathon running. I have some of my great friends from those days, and it was a way to manage anxiety. But I've realized with my autoimmune tendencies, I've dialed it way back, and I'm much more comfortable these days, you know, doing my 45-minute classes, weightlifting, and ton of what you're doing, like ton of NEAT, ton of non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Yep.
So that is, you know, kind of where I live right now. I still am a chronic mover. I love to move every day, but I don't overdo it.
Right.
And then, you know, as far as sleep goes, I've even been published on a sleep article of how I cured my insomnia because, as I said, for years, I think because I didn't sleep, I had no human growth hormone is what I did muscle testing. So in Canada, it was legal. So I did a 30-day human growth hormone supplementation.
Nice.
And I did high dose magnesium for a month. Okay. And that, like, before that transition, I didn't sleep well at all. Now, ever since, and it's been over 10 years, I sleep amazing. I mean, I have all the trackers.
Oh yeah.
My Aura ring, my husband and I compare, I usually kill it, like usually in the 90s. All my friends laugh though, because anytime anyone invites me out after like 8, I'm like, nope, you're on cocaine. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to bed.
Totally.
So, that's how I live. And, you know, so it was all the things. And that's why I did become a holistic nutritionist. I saw the other paths. I knew for me that health was just so much more than even what I put in my mouth. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And now if I could, you know, if I knew then I would, but now I just take it as like these illnesses were a gift as I see them that led me on this path of understanding more about myself, which is what I feel like life is, right? We're just here to learn and do better every single day. And not every day is going to be perfect. I don't expect my clientele to be perfect either, because I'm not. And, you know, we have vacations, we have fun, we have birthdays, you know, and life is meant to be celebrated. And, but at the same time, we all need to take ownership. And sometimes I feel like, you know, the magic that we are really looking for in terms of how we wake up energized and feeling our best every day is in that hard work we're avoiding, right?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Well,
you need to do the work every day.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that that's a possibility. I mean, especially once you hit 40 and beyond, there's this lie that it's, well, you're just getting older. No, it's not. The way that you're feeling is a result of your actions, your daily habits that have gotten you to this place where you're chronically inflamed, you're chronically sleep deprived, you're chronically not moving your muscles and moving your body. I mean, it is not an inevitable fact of life. As you get older, this is supposed to happen. I always tell my patients, I want to give you the gift of having your last decade of life looking like my great grandmother's. She lived to 105. She was mowing her own lawn at 98. Like, right? That is possible. And if you go, like, you know, I think I told you I lived in Japan for 3 years.
Yeah.
If you go to Japan, you see 90-year-olds riding on their bike all the time. Like, it is not an abnormal thing. It is just expected in because they chronically move and they eat real whole food. And they, I mean, it's a completely different health and wellness system over there, right? But
absolutely.
But ultimately, I think a lot of people don't even realize that the way they're feeling is not normal. And if they just changed a few things of their daily habits, that could start them down a different path of really having a fully optimized, healthy, you know, abundant life, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean, I'm on this mission. I don't know, you know, like I've given up kind of the idea of perfect health for me. Like you know, every time I go in for my blood work, I kind of do wish that Sjogren's marker would turn off. But at the same time, it's just a constant reminder. And like when I have the burning in my hands and feet, I kind of view it differently these days. Like I view it as energy, and I'm like, I'm just full of life force energy. And I'll try and just channel it. I'm like, it just needs to be channeled different places. So it is, you know, you receive what you perceive in a lot of ways. So I'm going to be 53 next week. And, you know, I do feel I'm healthier now than I was in my 30s.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure.
And for people that don't know you in person, that can only see you from the chest up, y'all, she's got a rocking body. I'm not going to lie. Like, you would never know that she is her age. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, you know, I was gifted that a little bit. A little hereditary, but I do work at it every day. You know, my parents were both movers. As I said, like I grew up with playing tennis with my dad, playing games with my mom as well, and going to cardio dance classes and all that stuff. And
I love
so
it.
I was kind of gifted that enthusiasm for movement, and I still
Yes.
carry that through every day, although a little bit different these days. I do feel like the strength training, I was, I was a chronic cardio person for years and years and years. And as I know you do too, like I weightlifted, dabbled, but like now that is, what I know is essential. I've actually put on like a few pounds of muscle. I'm so proud of myself over the past year.
You know that Laura Marmette is getting a DEXA scan in 2 weeks, right?
I heard you say that.
Yes.
Well, you'll have to give me a link to share so people can sign up, because that's amazing.
Well, the DEXA scan is by far the best tool to measure someone's percent body fat, percent muscle mass, their visceral fat, which is indicative of how much they have likelihood of developing diabetes or cardiovascular issues. And then bone mineral density. Of course, we females at midlife, once we stop making estrogen and testosterone, our bone mineral density goes to the crapper. And then hip fracture can literally be the death of us. And it's all avoidable. So, but you don't know what you don't know.
That's how my mom ended up passing. So I'm on she was ill for 10 years. So
right.
And she got so frail that she broke her hip during COVID. So I'm not saying that but I mean, it instilled in me that this is priority. I'm open to doing bioidentical hormones. I haven't started anything yet. Because
why haven't you talked to me? Come on.
Well, I want to. I still get a period regularly every single month too.
Yeah.
And I have no symptoms. That's the one thing, is I have zero symptoms, but I am wanting to, make sure that my transition into this form, this period of life is very smooth. So I'm doing the weightlifting, I'm taking the creatine. I got an in-body. I haven't had a DEXA. I want to have a DEXA.
Yes.
I've had several in-body scans, which is, a step below the DEXA.
Right.
DEXA is definitely up here.
Right.
But I know that, I was just talking to a relative, and she's in her late 60s, and she sent me a text saying, I'm losing weight. I'm, and I'm meeting with her this weekend to just talk about how we can optimize her routine. And I know it's because she's probably not getting enough protein and not lifting weights. It's, if you, and she's a healthy person. So I just know if, we can make a couple small tweaks.
Absolutely.
And with the help of, finding the right practitioner, like I love how you guide people, and you don't just give them the, like the drug and then walk off. Like it is like, they have to commit. I was listening to your, your intro to this and how you fire clients. Because you have to do the work. You can't expect to take something, whether it be a GLP-1 or bioidentical hormones, and just think magic's going to happen.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. 100% with bioidentical hormone replacement. So in my practice, a lot of my functional medicine patients were actually people that I was health coaching years before. So these women I knew very well. And when they were doing all of the things and were still struggling with their weight and still struggling with some of the side effects and symptoms like hot flashes or insomnia, or, the list is long of things that women start to feel once the ovaries start pooping out on us. And, I found myself like, I knew these women weren't lying to me. I knew that they were on point with their sleep, with their nutrition, with their exercise, with their NEAT, all of the things. And they were still having issues. And that's when, I was referring people because that was out of my scope of practice. And then I was like, let me just make this my scope of practice and give my patients the ability to do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy the right way. And man, everything that I've learned in the last year, like, the sooner you start on it in perimenopause, the longer the benefits. So like I've got dementia big time on my mom's side of the family. Like my grandmother and my great grandmother both had Alzheimer's. I'm scared to death of that because I chose not to have kids. So I don't have anyone to take care of me when I'm old. So I want to do everything to optimize and make sure that if I don't have to develop that, I do not want to. And so all of these things are my, nursing home prevention of, trying to stay out of the nursing home. I want to live on my own until my last day, be able to mow my lawn at 98 and do all of the things,
Yeah. And that's what all my friends are obviously around my age, and I say the same thing. I am going to keep my hormones checked and regular. And as soon as that first symptom props up, I'm in your office for sure. And maybe even before. That's what I said. I'm like, it doesn't have to be there. I want that smooth transition. I don't want to, wake up and sweat and feel terrible at all. So
correct. One of the providers that I met with the training academy that I went to, when she told me that she was 68, I thought she was literally your age. And when she told me she was 68, I was like, there's no way. And she looks at me and she goes, I started on bioidentical in perimenopause. And I was like, that is the key.
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
and you know, even though you're still cycling regularly, the average age of menopause, and I know you know this, but just for the listeners that maybe not know this, menopause is the first 12 months that you don't have a period in a row. And so you don't actually know that you're in the year of menopause until day 365 when, oh, I haven't had a period for 12 months, right? And so then every day after that, you are officially postmenopausal, right? So the average age of menopause in the American female population is 52, 53. So you're right around, so you're still being regular. So you might have another period for another 3-4 years, but we know that the average age of menopause is right around where you're at right now. So
yeah.
But yeah, getting on top of those hormones before you go through menopause is key, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So before I ask you my next question, I just had a thought, but since we're getting the DEXA scan in a couple of weeks, I would love to give your followers a discount. So we're gonna give them a 15% discount if they say DeeDee DEXA. Okay, so when they call to make the appointment, we'll say DeeDee DEXA is the discount code. And we'll give them the initial 15% off on their first DEXA scan. And again, the value of that information is huge. I mean, you might not be at the midlife. You might just be, struggling with your weight and want to see, okay, how much fat to muscle I have, because you and I both know the more muscle you have, the faster that resting metabolic rate is and the easier it is to burn fat. So muscle is the key. We're under muscled for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the InBody was light, kind of lit up a few light bulbs in my head too. And to know that bone mineral density is just the next step. So that's that's definitely I'll take advantage of my discount for sure. Come get it done.
For sure.
Because I know how valuable that is. And now instead of looking at the number of, pounds on the scale, I'm looking at the lean body mass and the fat mass and the muscle mass. The number on the scale really doesn't tell anything.
No,
it's
really
like
doesn't.
BMI. It's like, it should be a thing of the past, right? Yes, it's a gauge. And I can always tell when I'm a little inflamed by that number.
For sure.
But I'm looking at, those numbers, the lean muscle mass, the body fat mass, those things are the real indicator of health. And as you said, the more muscle we have, it's an endocrine organ, so we're burning more fat. So, that's the ideal and what I keep trying to strive for.
For sure. So with my weight loss patients, data, you can't change anything without measurable data. And so the scale is one piece of data. And if you're 100 pounds overweight, I do actually care about the number on the scale. But as you get closer and closer to your ideal body weight, and of course, your ideal body weight is based on your gender and based on your height, right? So I'm 5'6", and my ideal body weight is somewhere between about 130 to 140-ish, right? So once you start to get closer to that ideal body weight, the number on the scale isn't near as important, because if I'm at 100, let's say 35, but I'm 30% body fat, my body looks different and feels different than 20% body fat at 135 pounds. So this is where a different data point is a lot more important. But the scale, I will say, when I went on my weight loss journey, because I think, I used semaglutide for 8 months, that's when I started seeing the scale kind of like my Oura Ring score, because my routine, I'd wake up, I'd pee, as I'm on the toilet, I'd open my Oura Ring and see my score. And
every morning.
Every morning. Yeah. And so I kind of saw it as, it's just data that helps me stay on track. So if I were to have had an alcoholic beverage and it decreased my sleep score, it's just a confirmation, like, that was the juice worth the squeeze from that one alcoholic beverage? Probably not, because I love how I feel when I sleep well. And that just dropped my sleep score 15 to 20 points, right? So now I started to see the scale just as another data point, and also saw the ebb and flow as I started to lose weight. And here I am. I haven't been on semaglutide since April of 2023. I've maintained my weight loss because I did it the right way, slow and steady. I didn't lose any muscle. I got DEXA scans quarterly to confirm that. And here we are today. The percent body fat, I'm leaner at 44 than I've ever been. I'm at 17% body fat. And that is only because I did the weight loss journey the right way. you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I know that you work with corporate businesses. I know that you used to work one-on-one, but you don't do one-on-ones anymore. You have a lot of ways though that you help other people. Can you talk to the audience about that?
Yes. I mean, yeah, I do any kind of corporate presentation, corporate workshops, corporate programs, throughout the year. And then I'm going to be speaking at the first DG Mindfest conference, which I'm really excited about in October. So if you want to check him out, he's pretty cool. He's a mindset coach, on Instagram. And so he's, really been an inspiration for me, and I get to speak at his conference.
I think I follow him because wasn't he part of your group 2 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know who he is. Yeah, he's good. I like him.
He's good. And he's a mindset coach, and he asked me to speak at his conference, and I'm super excited about that. I have an upcoming, detox program that I run twice a year that I've had literally thousands of people do with amazing success.
Okay.
Don't be too scared. It's 5-day whole food detox. We use whole foods. It is proven time and time again. I have a million testimonials. If you want to jumpstart, I mean, you're not going to cure everything in 5 days,
No,
but it is an amazing jumpstart. I've had people like reverse blood markers. I mean, I honestly have like testimonials to this fact.
I love it.
That, what a difference 5 days can make in terms of reducing your inflammation and jumpstarting you on that health track. And then I give you a meal plan to follow up. So that runs September 30th through October 4th.
Okay.
And as I said, you've participated the past 2 years in my January signature program, which a lot of people have done. Usually, it's fun. It's a fun community program, but it's also online virtually. But we have a great group. It's called 30 Days to Feeling Fabulous, and that runs mid-January to mid-February. It's all online, and I give you a meal plan. So there's those two kind of signature programs. I always have meal plans on my website. So, and for your audience, actually, I have right now a 4-week Mediterranean meal plan.
Oh, nice.
That's online, and you guys can get it for $10 off. So it's Feed MBS, which is my website. So the word Feed MBS stands for Mind, Body, Soul. feedmbs.com/Dr. FITz, and they'll get $10 off of that. And that's usually where I'm living right now. And as I'm always open to doing new and exciting things, I do no longer work one-on-one. So if you're looking for one-on-one help, I would actually just refer you back to Dr. Lauren here on your journey. And then, just follow me. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm not as prolific. I actually took an entire month off. It was fantastic this summer off of Instagram.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Mental health.
100%.
So that's, kind of, I have prioritized certain things in my life. As I do get older, I realize, what's important. And for me, I just needed a month off. I'm back on though. And so I'm at Feed MBS on Facebook and at FeedMBS_nutrition on Instagram. And I provide health tips, recipes, just kind of life in the day of a holistic nutritionist, and how I work to kind of manage these chronic diseases that, I am, as Lauren said, they're always a part of me. And, and I see that as a gift, because it really has opened me up to so many opportunities like this. And otherwise, I don't know, I'd still be living that ad exec life. I have no idea what I'd be doing.
You actually might be not able to physically do that job anymore, because autoimmune disorders can be debilitating, that literally can take you out of being able to do any kind of normal life.
And that's where I almost was at age in my 30s. And I had these little kids, and I just remember looking at them some days and being like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And my husband traveled a ton, which was a stressor too. So it was me, and I was working, and, so my hats off to anyone that suffers with chronic illness, which is now up to 60% of the US population, closing in on 70% soon. I mean, the stats of everything are just, and I sometimes call myself DeeDee Downer. But, we need to wake up a bit. So when chronic illness is like 70% getting there, like what is going on? And we need to start asking ourselves, like, there is something there that we need to be considering. And chronic illness is often invisible. People looked at me back then and they were like, I was the same height and same weight when I was 20 versus now. And so they would look at me and be like, wow, you look great. and I felt like hell.
Exactly.
And could
Exactly.
get out of bed some days. So
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
journey.
our system is really set up. I mean, the sick patient makes the system a lot of money, and the patient that makes the system the most money is a sick child. So it literally, our system is not created to give patients tools to understand that this doesn't have to be your inevitable. And if you want to put in the work, you can reverse this. Like, I mean, if you would have been told that back 23 years ago, of course you would have done it, but you weren't told that. You were just told, here's prescription number 1 and here's prescription number 2. And that is the system. I didn't realize until after I got out of Western medicine how much big pharma influences curriculum at all of the medical levels, medical school, nursing school, PA school. They have a say. And so, of course, you get out of all of that education and all you know how to treat is through pharmaceuticals, procedures, and surgeries. And those all make the system a lot of money, but they don't heal patients. And that's why I call it the sick care system.
Absolutely. And I want to tell you a secret. So I haven't seen a rheumatologist since 2014.
Oh, so, I love that. I love that.
I walked out that last door when he told me, you know, and I was like, huh. I think I saw one person in Canada when I was there just to see if there was a differing in opinion. And it was the same old story of medications. And I said, and so I found holistic practitioners, people like you, that, you know, saw me as a whole and what was going on. And I have not, as I said, I have not stepped, and I'm not advising people to not see doctors or anything like that, obviously, and not take their medications. But, you know, I had some wake ups when I came off Lyrica, that pharmaceutical that I was on for 5 years for nerve pain, which helped maybe 50% of the pain. It helped a little bit. When I came off, I had never been depressed in my life. I didn't sleep for a month. I had like almost suicidal thoughts. I recognized them. So what I would do is stay up all night and walk on a treadmill to try and like get it out of my mind.
Wow.
For that entire month, I slept an hour or two. My husband would stay up with me a lot of times because I would say, like, if I got really bad, I would say, can you stay up with me? And I remember one evening we were traveling and he sat with me, and I wasn't drinking in a hotel bar, but just to be up with me because I was so, my anxiety. And so I had done Google searches, and Lyrica.
It is a nasty medication.
And I mean, every time I saw my doctor before that told me, oh, you're on such a low dose, it doesn't matter, you're going to be fine. Well, when I came off of it, that's what I experienced. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And again, I had never been depressed. I had never had any of those feelings. It was strictly related to my coming off and my detoxing of that drug. So, you know, again, you have to kind of own your health and understand that sometimes what you're told, you know, isn't not
the entire story
to you, right?
No. Well, DeeDee, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to share your story, because your story is very powerful. And I have no doubt that it's touched many people's lives already, but will continue to touch people's lives. So I just want to take this time to just honor you for you being in your purpose and using your struggles to help other people in their struggles. And this video will be shared multiple times, I have no doubt. So thank you very much for taking the time to be on the Dr. Fitz show. And to the watchers and listeners, if this was helpful to you, please share it, tag your friends, tag your family. If you're a corporate business, definitely she's the person to reach out to. And definitely I'm going to be part of your 5-day detox because I haven't done that one yet. So I'll be a part of that as well.
Hey, and there's food ordering available if you're local. So you don't even have to cook it. You can just order it and it comes, and people love that.
You're speaking my language, girl.
Yeah, it gets you pick it all up and it's done for you, and it's a piece of cake. So that's great. But yeah, we'd love to have you, and right back at you. I love to see women just like living in their purpose, helping other women achieve their goals. Because that's, as I see, you know, what life is really about. So thank you.
It is. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, audience, for taking the time to listen and share. Y'all have a beautiful day.
Thank you.